Hello and welcome to the CAGED CANARY podcast. I'm your host, Mahdi Gilbert, and today I wanted to talk about style. Now, one of my big influences in magic is René Levin, and has been for many, many years. And everybody acknowledges that René Levin has his own style. It just, whatever he does, it's 100% him. And it was something that he talks a lot about in his book. He writes a lot about finding his style. And when I was growing up, this was something that I became obsessed by because, René Levin was talking about it, and I was like, I don't have my own style. How do you find your style? And I remember the first magic convention that I ever went to. It was the first Magic Con, and there was a magician there, Irving Quant, who is from Texas, and he was a student of René Levin's. And it was my first magic convention. I met a lot of people there. I met Irvin, but I knew Irvin was a student of René's, and I asked him, René's always talking about style. How do I find my style? This is something that's really bothering me. And I was still just discovering magic. I had been in magic for a few years, but still so much to learn. I mean, I still have a lot to learn, but and he tried to give me advice, and it didn't soothe my nerves because I was still in this mindset of how am I going to discover my style? How am I going to find my style? And this was just something that it was present in my mind. I couldn't let up on it. I just needed to know, how do you find your style? And I can say after years and years of thinking about this and working on different magic, one of the great things that's happened to me in my life is I've worked with so many magicians, friends of mine, sometimes on my projects, sometimes on their projects, and that's opened me up to new magic. And you find things that fit you. And what style is there's a concept, and I was talking about it. Juan Tamariz talks about it. I didn't know it from Juan Tamariz. I sort of just had a sense of it by myself. But Juan Tamariz talks about this idea of the inner world of the magician, and this is the inner world of anybody who's doing anything. You are a movie director and you're making a movie. You can see the director has a style. You're seeing part of their inner world. That's what they're expressing to you. And the more rich the inner world is, the more you can get into whatever it is that they're putting out. And so this was a concept that, Juan Tamariz talks about. I didn't know about it from Juan. I just sort of understood it, but I agree with Juan 100% in terms of that. And what the style is you going through life and just becoming yourself, becoming the person who you want to become, I guess. I mean, you can become a person you don't want to become, but really the process of your style, and we're talking about shaping styles and discovering styles, it's really you just going through life and discovering the person that you want to be, and then that informing the magic that you do. And part of that is you absorbing your influences, but you do it in a way where it's beyond imitation. When you first start looking up to somebody and you're getting into magic, it's very natural to imitate them in terms of material, but also maybe in terms of their mannerism, maybe their jokes, maybe the way that they talk, maybe the way that they move. You just sort of internalize this because you look up to them and you want to do their magic, and you sort of just imitate them. And that's not, that's clearly not finding your style. But when you go past that and those people become a part of you in terms of the way that you think, your philosophy, everything, then you become like a hybrid and your unique self. And so you can see, and that's not saying that you're just, you know, a mixture of these people. Most of it is yourself, but it's also influenced by these people. So you see guys who have been in this for such a long time, Juan Tamariz, and you look at his influences, the people who he was around, Fred Capps. Now you look at Juan and you look at Fred Capps, totally different. You look at Juan Tamariz and you look at his influence, his mentor, Fraxon, completely different style, everything. But you do have those, I guess, those imprints on his personality, on his material, on his magic. The same thing with Danny Ortiz. Danny Ortiz, amazing magician from Spain also. You look at his influences, Leonard Green. Now you can see parts of it, but there's so much of his own personality, his own uniqueness, that it doesn't detract from what he's doing. It's just, let's say you don't know Danny Ortiz, you don't know Leonard Green. When you find out about Leonard Green, you're not disappointed, because this is not a copy of Leonard Green. This is somebody who loved Leonard Green and worked on that as a sort of a foundation of this idea of chaotic handling, and it's really beautiful when you see it. And then you have other guys who, by the way, you have a great magician from Japan, Takumi, who is also a student of Leonard Green's. And Takumi is completely the opposite, very precise, very very precise in terms of his work. Also, heavily influenced by Leonard Green, but he went his own way with it. And that's the beautiful thing, when you are influenced by somebody, that eventually becomes part of you. And it's not in a way where you're just copying them or anything like that. It literally just becomes a part of you. So I think at the end of the day, and when we're also talking about style, there's so many other factors other than your outside influences. It's the way that you interact with people, the way that you engage, your humor, the stories that you tell, the things that you say, and the way that you say them. These are all part of the style. And I can say from my own experience, because at the end of the day I can only speak from my own experience, I was heavily influenced by many magicians who I look up to, in the way that they speak, in the way that they move, the material that I do, tons of things. And what the process has been like for me is just going through those different phases, and also just finding out who I am, what type of material that I like, and then just experimenting. And that's what it is. It's a lot of experimenting, a lot of failure, a lot of success, but you're just going around and you're just discovering what fits with you. And this does take a lot of work. It does take a lot of time. And I can say right now I don't have a style. I think if you look at the full body of my work, I think you would be able to say there is a style. There is definitely the beginnings of a style, but it's not defined, because I'm still in. There's magic that I've been doing for years and years, and that I believe that I will be doing for the rest of my life. But there's also a lot of magic that I've done over the years that I just don't do anymore, that I tried it out and I'm like, okay, this doesn't work for me, or this doesn't fit me. But I would say if you were to see me today, you would get a sense of a style, but it's not a fully defined style. And that's what that's what the process is. It's not like one day you're just going to wake up and you have a style. You look at painters and you see their full body of work through their whole life. so often you can only tell their style from their later periods in life because it's so iconic, you recognize it, and then you see their earlier work and you're like, oh wow, this is by the same guy? It's totally different. So I would say for me personally, that's where I am. I'm still at a point of discovery, but I do have a conception of what magic is for me and what my style is. Now it's not complete. And so the question is, how do you complete it? And you don't ever complete it, I guess, as you're living and you're constantly evolving, but it slowly develops. So, and part of that, a big part, as I'm saying, is your structural conception of magic, your conception of magic, what magic is to you. And I think that's a very abstract thing. It's a very, theoretical thing, but it has a huge impact on the work that you do and the way that you do it for the public. So, I mean, what is magic for you? That's the big question. What is your conception of magic? How do you see magic? What do you see that is magic to you? What do you do that you feel is magic? And not every single trick is a magic trick. There's a lot of great card tricks that and tons of different magic tricks that I've gotten out of my repertoire because they're just tricks and they're fun. And so I see a lot of people do great. I love card tricks. I love card magic, but a lot of it is just fun, and it's almost like a puzzle. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying it doesn't feel like magic. It's a trick. The way that it's presented, the way that it handles. And for me, as I've been, doing this for years and years, my conception has changed in what I want my magic to be. And I want my magic to be magic. I want it to be real. Even though it isn't real, it's not real magic, I want it to be presented as real magic. Even if I'm doing, a very common trick, an effect that somebody does, they don't present it seriously, I want it to feel real. I want it to feel like if somebody's watching this, they believe that there's actually magic happening. That's the feeling that I want, and that's what magic is to me. Now, I'm not limited to that. That's not all what magic is to me, but that's a part of it. And so when I do approach my work, I want that feeling to be very real. At this point in my life, and that may change, I don't want anything you see me do just feel like a fun trick. I want it to feel like magic, and a lot of that has been influenced by the guys who I look up to, guys like David Blaine. Whenever David Blaine is doing a piece of magic, you really feel like it's magic. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's just a card trick. It's, even though, he can be doing material that a lot of other people do, he's really a master of making it feel like magic. And that really affected me when I saw that, and just so many things outside of magic as well affected me. But just this idea of, I want my magic to be magic, and that's not really a style, but that's part of the conception of what I want magic to be. And this is a shift. You can literally use virtually any material that you want. And I can. But, what is the presentation? What is the presentation? And how do you do that as an effect for people where it feels like magic? And so that starts with what magic is as an idea. And it needs to be an idea. You have to see a lot of magic. You have to do a lot of magic to be able to start having a conception of what magic is. And so a lot of things I just won't do because it's it doesn't feel like it suits me. But could that be a presentation problem? Probably. But that doesn't mean that you need to just come up with a presentation that fits your style so that you can do it. That's a whole other discussion. But when we're talking about, and I think I should just bring it back to this point, this idea of the conception. What is your conception of magic? And that's something you really need to focus on. You need to sit down and just watch a lot of magic. There's great resources. I forget what it's called. It might be called the Screening Room or something from Magic Cana. If you go on their website, they have a ton of magic clips from old TV shows, or TV shows by Wantam Rees, TV shows from here in Canada, TV shows from literally all over the place. And so you can see tons and tons of magicians doing their thing. Other than that, you have tons of magic videos online. I would really familiarize myself, and I suggest you do yourself, familiarize yourself with the magic that's been done, that's been recorded. Watch magic shows. Somebody puts a show online, watch it. Watch those old TV shows. Just watch as much magic as you can. Learn as much magic as you can and do as much magic as you can. And really just always, when you're watching this stuff, feel the experience. What does this feel like for you? Is it fun? Is it exciting? What is it that you enjoy? Because at the end of the day, it's all based on your personality and what you love. What do you love about what you're watching? What doesn't attract you? What just, you see it and you're like, I don't really care. And then what really stimulates you and really attracts you and really makes you feel like, wow, I want to do this. And that's the kind of stuff that you should focus on. And it's not necessarily the material, just think of the feel. Think of the feel. It's like movies, you see a director or you see a genre of film, and they have a feel to it. They have a feel. This is a gritty movie, or this is a really, whatever the feel is. That's how you should be watching magic. What does that feel? What do you feel aligns with you? What do you love? And then at the end of the day, all you're doing, you can do magic a lot of ways, but I really do think that it is a labor of love. And a lot of the times what we're presenting are things that we love and things that we have an affinity to. So it's just what you like, what does that feel? And then how can you present that to your audience? How can you duplicate it in your own way? And that is sort of the beginnings of finding your style through finding your conception of magic. And this is a long process. This is not something that's going to take a few weeks or a few months. This is literally years, decades will go by, and you'll slowly understand what it is that you like. And don't worry about it. Don't rush things. Don't worry about your material or your magic not having a cohesive feel at different points. Just do material that you like. I think at the beginning we're all just sort of trying to find material that we can do for an audience that they enjoy and that we enjoy, and you just continue that process. But it really is watching magic, doing magic, understanding that conception. What is that conception of magic to you? How do you conceive magic? How do you see it? How do you feel it? When you close your eyes and you think about magic, you imagine magic. What does that look like to you? When you just sit down and you imagine magic that has never been done, what does that look like to you? How does that feel like? How's the magician talking to the audience? How's the audience feeling when they're watching this? What's happening? And you build that conception. And that will lead you eventually to your style. So, this is a very, a lot of what I talk about is, practical and, but at the end of the day, it's all practical. But there's a lot behind it. And this is sort of an abstract thing, but it's a very necessary thing. Otherwise, if you don't have a conception of magic, then no one will understand what it is that you are trying to present. And that's not a problem in the beginning. You're just, discovering your way, your path. But eventually, this is something that you need to sit down, understand, and deal with. And it's a process, and it's a fun process, it's a painful process. It is what it is. But you do it, and you will eventually find a conception of magic that you love. And so behind me, I have my bookshelf, and the idea behind my bookshelf, this is one bookshelf. I have other bookshelves, but the idea is, and this bookshelf, I'm not following that idea, but the idea is I want to have everything on my bookshelf that I have an affinity to. And so I want to get to a point where everything on my bookshelf, it's not just because I own it, it's because I love it. So if there's a book that I'm not in love with, or an author, or just something that I don't feel an affinity to, it's not that I want to like toss it out of my house and whatever, but I just want to be surrounded by things that I feel an affinity to. So if I look behind me and I see, oh look, I have this book on Houdini, I feel a real affinity. Houdini, the way he presented magic, I just love everything about it. The way he interacted with the audience. Also his character on stage, off stage, just really boom. I just feel such an affinity to him. You have right beside him a book on Alexander the Man Who Knows, Claude Alexander Conlon, who was a mind reader, a fortune teller, and just incredibly influential, iconic, and did great effects, and it sort of influences how my thinking, because I'm a huge fan of mind reading, but I didn't want to go down that style, but I really do like that style, but I don't want it to be it. But I look at the grand picture of it, which is, what was that experience to the audience? And they really believed he was the man who knows. How do you get somebody to feel that way doing mind reading tricks? You have beside him Mellini and his magic. Mellini, one of my big influences. I absolutely love the magic of Mellini, the way that he presented magic, the way that he was, the way that he talked, the magic that he did, the way he presented it, the objects that he used. I just felt a very strong affinity to that. And so I just want to have these things that surround me, so that I'm in a constant state of meditation. And I remember watching Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, which is a series that they had hosted by Bill Moyers in the 1980s. And Joseph Campbell talks about this monk who he was spending time with, and he's just, the monk is living in the cathedral, and he's talking about how being in the cathedral, he's in a constant state of meditation because he's surrounded by this one subject in terms of artwork, in terms of architecture, the imagery. There's just this one theme in his life, and he's constantly surrounded by it, so he's constantly thinking about it. And I sort of believe that same thing. If you could just surround yourself by your influences in different ways, maybe that's a poster, a picture, but you're just constantly surrounded by the things that you want to be imprinted on you, you'll be just constantly meditating on it, because that's what will surround you, and that's what will, just both consciously and subconsciously be entering into you at all times, just by you seeing it, thinking about it. I'm looking over here, there's a book on David Blaine. I'm thinking about David Blaine for 10 seconds, and then I go on and do this stuff. I have a book on Juan Tamariz over there, Verbal Magic, and then I'm thinking about how Juan Tamariz presented that on TV, his style, everything. This is the process. You surround yourself with magic. You surround yourself by the things that you love, the things that influence you, and you're just absorbing everything. And that's through watching magic, but it's also by surrounding yourself by magic, always working on magic, thinking about magic. You eventually will come with your own conception of magic. And I'm sorry if this is really theoretical and out there for a lot of you. But this is how I feel. This is my process. Everybody has a different process, and that's okay. I hope that you are able to get some value of this and really start thinking about what magic means to you, because that is what is going to eventually, with a lot of time, develop that conception and that style. So I know it's a long-winded answer. How do you find your style? How do you find this conception of magic? But this is sort of the starting point. And I want to talk about it a lot longer, probably more focused in the next podcast, because right now I'm jumping from thing to thing. But I will approach this from more of a focused viewpoint, so that we can really get into different things to move this process of conceiving magic forward. So thank you once again for watching. I always enjoy, if you guys like this, please let me know, comment, respond, like, share, do all those things, and I will see you guys in the next one. Oh, and also we're also going to be interviewing more people. In the last episode, I interviewed my friend Javier Natero from Mexico, and I'm going to be interviewing more of my friends in the coming weeks. So please let me know who you would like to see on the show, on the podcast, and I'll try to set it up. Thank you again, and see you later.